皆さん、アセンションお楽しみいただけておりますでしょうか。いよいよ本日のスペシャルセッションです。お待ちかねの台湾行政院デジタル担当大臣オードリー・タン大臣と福岡市高島宗一郎市長の特別対談です。それでは社会の次元上昇を目指して熱い熱いセッションよろしくお願いします。
はい、改めましてタンさん、今日は初めましてよろしくお願いいたします。我是福岡市長高島一郎。
Nice seeing you.
どうぞよろしくお願いします。タンさん、事前にお伺いをしたら福岡には一度も来たことがないっていうことを聞いて驚いたんですが、本当ですか
？Not been physically, but my office, the Social Innovation Lab, when we were planning it 3 years ago, we learned from the Fukuoka Growth Next. David of Eno brought the ideas from your city about putting I think it's Daimyo Primary School, something like that, into a startup cluster so that each room, which used to be the primary school classrooms, could be the offices or co-working spaces. And because at the time we're looking at the Air Force headquarters that was in very bad condition and unused for quite some time, we did turn that into my office and also the Social Innovation Lab, learning from the Fukuoka experience. So while I haven't been physically in that particular startup cluster, I'm living in a derivative, a offspring of that cluster, if you will.
わかりました。ちなみに福岡見たことないというふうに来たことはないということなんです。ちょっとだけ見せますね。福岡のこれ写真なんですけれどご覧ください。これが福岡のシティセンターです。そして次がね、これが海と山がすごく近くてね、台湾からもあっという間に来ます。そして山もね、本当に季節によってとっても美しい桜が咲いたり、それからね、福岡っていうのはとにかく美味しいものがたくさんあることで有名です。寿司とか牡蠣はもちろんね、とにかくもう博多は豚骨ラーメン、福岡のねラーメンヌードルラバーのもうパラダイスって言われてますし、あともつ鍋とかね、美味しいものもたくさんあるんで、ぜひフィジカルにもお越しください。
As I get a vaccine, I'm coming.
はい、さて、今日はですねいろいろとタンさんにお話をお伺いをしたいんですが、まずなんといってもね、日本でもやっぱり今ちょっとコロナが全国的に増えてきてるんですよね。台湾って今コロナの状況どうなってるんですかね。
Yeah, it's been more than 230 days now with no local transmissions. And we've had, of course, daily reported cases for people who come into Taiwan and in quarantine for 14 days. And today, the border quarantine reported 14 people to have COVID at the quarantined border. So while domestically we are very safe and have been very safe for more than 200 days, we're still on a pretty vigilant guard until the vaccine is made available. But otherwise, life is pretty normal. Masks is becoming a fashion item. I have an entire box of pink medical masks here, and people also wear rainbow medical masks as well, because we just had a Pride parade and in Taipei, but the Kaohsiung one is also coming this.
これまでやっぱり今のお話を伺いするとコロナを抑え込めてて素晴らしいなと思うんですが、対策としては何が一番効いている？例えば海外からの入国を制限しているのか、それとも市民一人一人のリテラシーがとても高くなったからなのか、何が原因で理由で抑え込めていると思います？
Well, I think the most important measure is the idea that one wears a mask to protect myself from my own unwashed hand. Connect hand washing and mask use together. Then these two together is like a physical vaccine. When 3/4 of population get into the habit of wearing a mask to protect themselves against their own idea was spreading, they can remind each other. I get reminded more than once by my fellow citizens saying, "Minister, why are you not wearing a mask to protect yourself?" Now imagine if we have said, wear a mask to protect other people or wear a mask to protect the elderly, then it's harder to say, Minister, why are you not respecting me? Very difficult to say. But Minister, why are you not wearing a mask to protect yourself? Easier to say. So I think attribute it into the prevalent mask use and the hand sanitation habits. But otherwise, of course, border control, as well as making sure that people understand the epidemiology, that is also very important. This is not just the pandemic of the body, but also infodemic, like disinformation, conspiracy theory of the mind as well. And for that, we also need to be vigilant.
なるほど。今その新型コロナウイルスっていうものは2つ見え方が、例えば同じ新型コロナウイルスでも全然別なものに見えているものがあるなと思っていて、それはその高齢者にとっての新型コロナウイルスと若い人にとっての新型コロナウイルスだと思うんですね。で、例えばその高齢者っていうのはにとってはこれはとてもリスクの高いものである。で、若い人にとってはこれは重症化リスクが非常に低いものと思っているので、同じニュースを見ていても人によって見え方が全然違うということ、それから入ってくる情報ですね。リスクの高い高齢者というのはテレビを見ます。で、テレビというのはやはりリスクをとても煽りますので、非常に高齢者はますます怖くなる。で、一方で若い人っていうのはインターネットで情報を得ますので、だからこれが自分たちにとってのリスクがどれくらいかっていうことも自分たちでこう理解するわけですね。で、台湾の中においてはこういう新型コロナウイルスのリスクの向き合い方とか、もしくはそうしたそのなんていうのかな、断絶っていうものは例えば若い人と高齢者とか、もしくはネットを見る人とテレビしか見ない人っていうふうにこう断絶はないですかね。
Yes, I think that is because the intergeneration gap, as you frame it, is less of an issue because also thinking to Japanese technology, regardless of generation, Taiwanese people are on a platform called the Line platform. And on the Line platform, there is this very well-followed account that shows exactly how the immunology works. And it's like, where can I find some masks? Then it very quickly makes sure that I can both see the map for the mask procurement, but to pre-order online, I can also order online, not only for myself, but also potentially it shows how to do so for my family as well. And so because of this Line platform, which was developed in Japan following this connects the generations together in the cute dogs and cute cats and other memes as well. That makes the idea was spread through this common platform. And this is very interesting because Line makes it possible for somebody who are standing in line queuing in a pharmacy. So here is literally all the pharmacies near me, and it shows in real time how many masks of adult and how many masks of children are there. So I don't have to queue unnecessarily. And when people queuing me, like in the front of me, swipe their national card and buy some mask, I can check my line and actually see the system in action in real time. So everybody trusts each other more, and they then trust the pharmacist more. And then the pharmacist can show them how to properly protect themselves, not just mask, but also hand sanitation.
個人情報とか個人情報というか個人確認のカードというのはみんな例えば日本ではマイナンバーっていうものがあるんですが、台湾ではどういうもので例えば購入するときとかに個人確認ってしてるんですかね。
We use the National Health Insurance Card, which is a IC card, just like my number, but it is not for electronic signature. It is just for identification. So the national health is used by more than 99.99% of not just citizens, but also residents, including immigrant workers and so on. And because it is a single payer obligatory insurance system, we made sure that anyone who has that card can get their mask ration, whether they are adult or a child. people as young as 5 days after they were born get a national health IC card. So it really is everybody. And also by law, just like in my number, this card can only be used for public service. It cannot be used for things like advertisement or e-commerce or any other purposes. So people trust the use of that card more because they know they will not be targeted by advertisers or things like that.
もちろん日本でも同じようなマイナンバーっていうのは広告もなしで本人確認に使えるようにということでできたんですが、日本では政府に自分の情報を知られたくないとかいうことで相当実は持っている人の数が少ないんですね。台湾ではどうやってその個人情報をそのカードに記入をするっていうようなこと、カードを持つということに多くの人が抵抗なく賛同できたんでしょうかね。
Yeah, back in 2003, when SARS 1.0 came to Taiwan, it killed many people, 73 people. We had to lock down to barricade an entire hospital without announcement. It was very chaotic. The municipal government in 2003 was saying very different things from the central government. But the small island of Penghu, of the Pescador Island, also very beautiful island, suffers less from SARS 1.0 because they already have the IC card, because the national health insurance card, while in the main Taiwan island, it's still paper-based. We were already starting a pilot test case on the smaller Penghu Island for the IC card. And the contrast is very clear. If you have a IC card, it makes it much more easy to do not only contact tracing, but also to dispense, for example, the rationing of masks and reduce stockpiling and panic buy. So a year after SARS in 2004, not only did our constitutional court ruled that the parliament need to set up new laws to set up a central epidemic command center so that we don't have to go to lockdown again. SARS 2.0 came, but also we made sure that a national IC card for the health insurance is used not only on Penghu, but also everywhere else in Taiwan. Now, fast forward another 16 years, and then we get the yearly drills going on. So when we hear from Wuhan, Dr. Li Wenliang's post, the SARS has happened again, we all started to get the drills going the first day of 2020, the first day of January. So this early response is also very important because everybody above 30 years old remember how bad it was in SARS 1.0.
例えばこういうその ICT を活用していくとか、それからデータを集めていっていくということで、台湾ではかなりそういった今回の新型コロナウイルスに対しても市民の皆さんが安心して使えたし、政府としても対応ができたというふうに思います。で、一方こうしたことをやろうとしたときに、スマートフォンが使えない高齢者とかアプリケーションっていうものに抵抗がある高齢者はどうするんだっていうようなことは台湾では議論になりませんでしたか？
The Taiwan elderly people use Line more than their sons and daughters. They are better users of the Line app. This is very special because in Taiwan, broadband is a human right. Anywhere in Taiwan, you can get 10 megabits per second, both ways, not just downloading, but also very reasonable uploading as well. And even on the top of Taiwan, the Yushan Mountain, you're still guaranteed to get that connection. Otherwise, it's my fault. And it's very affordable. It's just less than 2,000 yen per month for unlimited data connection through 4G. And because of that, a lot of elderly people connect to their family using video conference, unlimited video calls, and because they paid 1,800 yen a month, and this is all you can eat, right? So they use video conference and do live streaming and watch YouTube and so on all the time. And that really, really helped because every day at 2 p.m., our Central Epidemic Command Center broadcasted live stream conference of the press, that the press can ask anything and everything, and they always also respond to the hotline 1922. Anyone can call 1922 to feed in questions for the next day's video conference, and the elderly people can easily follow that on the line platform through chatbots as well, and that really helps. But even for like really old people, like I'm talking about like my own grandmother, almost 90 years old, then if she has troubles using Line, then of course she has her neighboring convenience stores and neighboring pharmacies who can also relay the information to her. But in my own case, my grandma actually used Line very well. She is also very good in using virtual reality. But anyway, we make sure we have the community connectors to connect to the elderly.
随分だから情報リテラシーないしはなんていうか、ブロードバンドというか ICT を使っていく、スマホを使っていくっていうことはすごく浸透台湾の人では普通にしてるんだなっていうことを思いました。では例えば情報を得るときに皆さんは、例えばテレビ、それから新聞、それからインターネット、それからスマホで得られる、SNS などの情報でどこに信頼性が高く皆さんは情報を得てるんですかね。
Yes, of course, many of them rely on the people they trust, which is why it's so important to have the first community pharmacists and then later on the convenience stores enrolling into this mask rationing business, because it's not just about rationing out masks, but also about sharing correct information as well. And when people queue in line, or when people go and ask for a convenience store staff to help them to operate a kiosk to order the mask, they can then reinforce the right information about physical distancing, about how to protect themselves, and so on, making sure that they remember how to properly wash their hand. Instead of just washing very quickly, they have to follow a certain song. There's a kind of limerick writing about how to wash one's hands properly, first on the inner and then the outer, and like very different postures and so on. And they can practice as well by the pharmacist and when queuing in line in the convenience stores and so on. So the face-to-face interaction is augmented by the smartphone, but it's not taken away by the smartphone. If we use the smartphone to replace, to substitute for face-to-face or real in-person interaction, then this information looks as believable as true information. But if the true information is reinforced by the day-to-day interaction of trusted intermediaries like pharmacists, then the disinformation is much harder to spread.
なるほど。こういう新しい政策っていうのも含めてタンさんがすごく中に入ってチャレンジされてると思うんですが、やっぱり日本の場合でもそうなんですが、民間人の方がいきなり行政の中に入っても民間のアイディアっていうのはなかなかね、やっぱりそれが官僚の世界でうまく反映されるかっていうとなかなかこれ難しいだろうなと思うんですが、タンさんが入ってこういうなんていうのかな、IT の大臣として新しい提案をしたときに、例えば台湾の政治家の皆さんとか行政っていうのはそういう新しいアイディアっていうものを柔軟にスムーズに受け入れることっていうのはできたんでしょうか。
Well, I'm sure that you also successfully overcame not only the city council but bureaucracy when converting abandoned primary school schoolyards into startup clusters, so that you also have some experience that I can learn from. But my point in career bureaucracy negotiation is based on the observation that they are all in this to help everyone, to help all the stakeholders. And so as a digital specialist, I can help the public servants. So when I become digital minister in 2016, I call myself the public servant of the public service. So I serve the people who serve the people, meaning that if I can help them to make their work less cumbersome, to save their time by automating away some of the chores that they do. They can spend more time connecting to other people instead of to the machines. If I can help them set up the video conference norms so that they don't have to spend so much time traveling on high-speed rails and low-speed rails and so on, then of course that's more time for themselves and their community and their family. If I can help them to absorb the risk by saying it's all my fault, if a innovation fails, you can blame Audrey. Then they are much more innovative because they know their ideas can be implemented and they get a credit if it works, but I can absorb the blame if it doesn't work. There's many different small ways on how to operate within the bureaucracy, but I think it boils down to be more trustworthy by absorbing risk and saving people's time.
タンさんはじゃあ中に入って自分が思い描いたような IT を使ってこのように市民サービス、国民サービスをいいものにしようと思ったサービスはストレスなくそれが実現できているっていうことなんですか？
There's no challenges at all. Everybody just voluntarily collaborated. But this is a situation that's called assembling bias. Because you see, I don't give orders, I don't take orders. In my office is from all the 12 different ministries who want to post themselves as secondments to my office. In that sense, I'm just holding a space for the innovative public servants to try out new measures, to work out loud. But the people who don't want to work out loud or to practice in this new horizontal policy making, well, they don't have to send people to my office. So while in my office, there are, of course, people from the ministries of culture, of interior, of finance, of justice, of public diplomacy, and national communication, education, I can go on, but there was no one from the Ministry of Defense. The military never sent anyone. So I said I don't run into any challenges, but that's because maybe the challenging people, they would not send people to my office anyway. So I have no idea how the Ministry of Defense works.
なんていうか若い方が若い発想を行政に入れてどんどんサービスをアップデートしていくって素晴らしいなっていうふうに思っています。それで特に今ダイバーシティっていうことはとても世界で言われていると思うんですがそんな中でやっぱり日本においてもとっても足りないのが意思決定層に若い人がいないっていう一番足りないダイバーシティ若さじゃないかっていうふうに思っているんですが台湾では結構若い人がリーダーとして抜擢をされたりっていうようなことはあるんですかね。そういう制度でもあるんですか？
Definitely. We have this idea called a reverse mentor, a young person coming into the cabinet to lead the cabinet member who are older than this young reverse mentor. So usually it's the older people mentoring the young, but in the reverse mentorship, it's the young people mentoring the old. Back in 2014, when I was 33 years old, I was also a reverse mentor to a minister of the cabinet, Minister Jacqueline Tsai, and I helped her to set the idea of making sure that people who cannot represent themselves through traditional unions or associations, for example, she wanted to know how can we get startup founders to register instead of in Cayman Islands. Now, there was no association for startup people who register at Cayman Island. There was no industry association for that sort of thing. And she also wants to improve the teleworking condition. Again, there's no union of teleworkers. So traditional representative politics does not work here because there's no associations or unions. Instead, we use the AI technology called Polis that everyone can just post their own experience and feelings and form ad hoc clusters. It's like an association, but it's not formal. And it's purely based on how resonating your idea is with each other. So using Polis, we solved issues like Uber and so on that pertains to emerging technologies on the platform. So that's my work as a young reverse mentor. Now, of course, I am old. I am 39 now. So I also rely on a new wave of younger reverse mentors to show new directions to me.
それは素晴らしい制度ですね。リバースメンター制度って、これは今お話を伺って日本でもこれぜひ取り入れたらいいんじゃないかっていうふうにすごく思いました。やっぱり若い人の意見を聞くというよりも、やはり年長者が決めてっていうことがやっぱり日本でも多いと思うんですが、台湾ではどうしてその若い人からメンターを受けるっていう、まさにそのリバースのメンターの制度みたいなのが生まれたのか、何かきっかけあったんですかね。とても素晴らしい制度だと思いますけど。
Yeah, the system was initiated in 2014, and it is started by a bunch of largely undergrad and even some high school students who occupied the parliament for 3 weeks. It's called a sunflower movement. At the time, the MPs, the members of the parliament, were refusing to deliberate a trade deal with Beijing. And because of that, the people occupied their workplace to do their work to deliberate that trade deal. And so it's a demonstration, but it's not a protest only. It's a demonstration as in a demo. It shows that young people can deliberate the trade agreement with the help of 20 civil society organizations, as well as 500,000 people on the street and many more online. Together, the rough consensus is as good, if not better, than anything that a parliament can do. And we did agree on a set of consensus, which was then accepted by the head of the parliament. So the reverse mentorship system was designed and initiated then, right after the sunflower movement. And I think this can be implemented on the municipal level as well. And it is very exciting for young people. Our most active people doing citizens initiatives of this kind nowadays also online are around 16 years old. And so high school students, I think they are definitely the future. I'm seeing a tweet just right now on Twitter saying the person is called Ogasho, OGA_SHO, saying that listening to Mayor Takashima and Audrey Tang, if I have seen this level of excitement when I was in high school, she said, I might not have left Fukuoka. And so this is definitely a very positive sign that the younger people are very excited about this real-time interaction with high-level political decision makers on the municipal level too.
そうか、それは本当に素晴らしいなっていうふうに思いましたし、だからこう新しいものをどんどんその政治行政の中にも台湾って取り入れられてるんだなっていうようなことをすごく勉強させてもらいました。ありがとうございます。そして今そうしたこう新しいアイディアをまさに社会として取り入れなきゃいけないというふうに思うわけですね。それは特に福岡市はスタートアップの国家戦略特区のスタートアップ特区に選ばれている場所です。それで今ちょっと画面もあるんですけれども、世界のですね、今11カ国15のスタートアップの拠点とスタートアップの MOU パートナーシップを結んでいて、それで、今日のイベントもそうですけれども、いろんな国境を越えたビジネスっていうことを一生懸命頑張っています。でスタートアップが生み出す新しいビジネスモデルとか、それからなんてテクノロジーとかをどんどん社会に実装したいなと思って、頑張っています。で日本の場合は規制緩和っていう時にやっぱり既得権の人たちの抵抗にもあって、なかなか新しいイノベーションを社会に入れることが難しいんですね。それで日本のやり方としては国家戦略特区っていうそのエリアを限定してチャレンジしてみる、うまくいけば全体に広げてみるっていうやり方をしていて、福岡が日本の中ではそういう特区なんですが、台湾ではこういう新しいビジネスモデルとかテクノロジーを社会に入れるときに、まだ法律とか規制が想定してなかった新しいものをどうやって社会の中に入れるような仕組みになっているのか教えてもらっていいですか？
I think our system called the sandbox system is legally called Innovation Acts. And we have many innovation acts. Right now, the Education Innovation Act has been sent to the Parliament for consideration. We already passed the FinTech Innovation Act, or Sandbox, a few years ago. There was also ones for transportation. So for self-driving vehicles, no matter where it's flying or where it's in the sea or whether it's on the land or whether it's actually moving, morphing between many different forms like a boat that converts into a car and things like that, it's all permitted in the self-driving vehicle Sandbox Acts. There's also the enabling Sandbox Acts to make sure that people can try out new medical devices like software-defined medical devices as well, and that's also in the drafting stage. And there's also a general purpose sandbox that you can challenge any regulation, but not law, any regulation at any ministry with only two exceptions. You cannot experiment on money laundering. You cannot experiment on making terror. Other than those two, everything else is good, is fair game. So in that sense, the entire Taiwan is a strategic zone for things like this to try. And usually it's tried for half a year to maybe 1 year at most. And after that, the society do a collective decision whether it's a good idea or not. If it's not a good idea, we thank the investors to pay the tuition, so everybody learns a little bit. It's like lottery, but reversed. But if it works, then we will guarantee to make their idea into reality. While the parliament or the city council need to work, of course, on the regulation, the early pioneer in the sandbox, if they get accepted, then they get the monopoly until such a regulation is made possible. After that, of course, regular competition becomes open again. So this is the incentive that you can have a time-limited monopoly if you show the society the vision of the future of the law as well.
すごいですね。いや、とっても素晴らしい制度で、それだったら多分イノベーションっていうのをどんどん社会で起こせるし、生産性ってすごく上がるだろうなっていうふうに言って聞いてて羨ましく思いました。で、一つはやっぱりリスクに対する考え方がもしかしたら違うのかなって思ったのが、日本の場合はやっぱゼロリスク神話っていうのがあって、これはコロナ対策でもそうなんですが、もう一つでも何か問題があるんだったら、もしくは事故の可能性があるんだったら 99% いいことであっても、もしくは99人にとっていいことであってもできないっていうような部分があって、だから例えば分かりやすく言うと、自動運転走らせようって言っても、じゃあそれはトライアルでやってみましょう、1ヶ月トライアルって言っても、日本だったらその時に事故があったらどうするんだ、誰が責任を取るんだみたいな話になって、そういう実証実験ってできないんですよね。台湾の皆さんはこうしたその実証実験で起こるリスクに関する考え方ってどういうふうなモチベーションなんですかね。
If you are on the driver's seat or the co-pilot's seat, then one can understand the risk much better. If this is a really long car, a long bus, and you are in the very rear of the seat, you can't see where the driver is going, then of course you would want zero risk. This is not about particular culture or particular age group or particular ethnicity. I don't think it's about it. It's entirely based on how close you are to the driver's seat when doing innovation. So the entire point of autonomous driving sandbox is to invite as many people as possible. In my own office, the Social Innovation Lab that's modeled after your center, we made sure that the smaller self-driving vehicles can roam freely, like in the campus. So for a very long time, we hold mobility hackathon with very cute tricycles. And those tricycles, they are very slow. They're not faster than me running. So even if accidents happen, if it runs into a wall or something, it cannot hurt anyone. It's just very slow. But because it's so slow and it's open software and open hardware, students, elderly people, they all want to change it. So they propose many things, like instead of one eye, which makes it look like a cyclope, make it two eyes, which makes it look like a cute dog. And for it to learn to yield first to the elderly and let the elderly pass before it yields to the children. Because the original design came from Boston, where they care about children and don't care about the elderly. But in Taiwan, it's the other way around. So we need to make many co-creation workshops so everybody feel they are in the driver's seat in a low risk, but not zero risk open design. Only when people are feeling okay about this do we increase the speed limit a little bit more. So co-creation, participation by citizens, that is the most important thing.
なるほど。やり方スモールサクセスから少しずつ広げていく、市民と共に作っていくっていう台湾のやり方が分かりました。ありがとうございます。でもっともっといろんなジャンルのところで、例えば台湾の状況を知りませんけど、日本であっても例えばオンラインで病院の先生の診察を受けるとかですね、こういうのも少しずつ今できるようになってきている。でも一方でこうしたものをしようとするときにやはり既得権の人たちはこれに反対するわけですよね。ですから台湾も今の安全性のことだけではなくて、既得権の人たちからの反対、例えば政治家に対する圧力をかけてそうしたものが社会で実装できないようにみたいな、こういうネガティブな動きっていうのも、日本では当然あるわけですが、どうですか台湾では。
Yeah, I think the vested interests are there because they used to solve an important problem in the society. They earned their place. Otherwise, they would not become a vested interest. But situations change. For example, when I mentioned the 16-year-old, a young lady who posted a citizen initiative to ban the use of plastic straw on bubble tea and other drinks. That is a very new idea, but because of the memes, the internet image of a sea turtle choked on a plastic straw and so on, it get 5,000 signature very quickly. People saying we must ban plastic straw now. And we do collaboration meetings very regularly, every other week or so, to bring the stakeholders together, including the young visionaries like this young lady, and the vested interest like the producers of plastic straws and one-time use utensils, who are of course older, and they also have something to say. And so we regularly bring them together in the Social Innovation Lab and other places for collaboration meetings, live stream the meeting many times. People can all join online like we are doing now through live streaming. And so also hear what they have to say. And a producer of those plastic straws and chopsticks and so on said during the collaboration meeting to this young lady that when he joined the industry, he was also quite young, but that was like 40 years ago. And at the time, Taiwan was hit by hepatitis B, a virus. And the virus transmits eating together. And that is why he made his life's work to prevent the disease by making the one-time use chopsticks and straws and things like that. And so it was social entrepreneurship as well, socially responsible entrepreneurship. But nowadays, hepatitis B no longer a problem. We have cure for that as well. You can just pop a pill and the virus is gone. So it's a solved problem. So he is also looking for his next generation when they take over they are also looking into making more sustainable contributions. So we brainstorm together how to design biodegradable, recyclable, like my jacket here. This is made of the coffee bean waste and recycled plastic bottles. And I think 12 bottles went into making of this fashion item. And so we can introduce such ideas to the producers, and then the vested interest will pivot. Not only startups can pivot, if you have a good enough sustainability value, existing vested interests can also pivot when they know that this very creative young lady who started a movement can also help advertise their new product line, which is biodegradable and more sustainable. And so bringing them together is the most important thing to do.
なるほど。でもお話伺ってると結構なんていうのかな、政策決定者、それから既得権の人、既得権というか既存企業の人たちと、それからスタートアップとっていうところがとてもこうなんていうか垣根が低いというか近い存在だなっていうふうに今聞いて思ったし、そういう人たちがこう話し合いながら次に進めてるっていうのは素晴らしいなと思ったんですが、こう行政政府としてもその民間のアイディアとかをどううまく取り入れていくかっていうような、そういう何かこう仕組みとかってあるんですかね。
Yes, definitely. So I mentioned already Polis, which is at POL. It's also a social entrepreneur, Cody from Seattle, and he invented the methods for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to pour ideas in, and then you get the rough consensus out because it shares the moderation work to everyone, and there is no reply button. So you cannot verbally attack someone. It's like a social media designed for pro-social, not anti-social conversations. So we use that very regularly. There's even the website polis.gov.tw, just like a ministry's top-level website domain name dedicated to that technology. And there's also face-to-face ways to do so. As in my office in the Social Innovation Lab, every Wednesday I meet 20 people or so on average who can all book my time. And when they talk to me, they must agree to be published either as a transcript or on YouTube as a video for everybody else to see. This is called radical transparency. So the private sector people who come to lobby me must lobby not only to me, but through the camera to everybody in the entire world. So people will all about sustainability, inclusion in their innovative proposals. Nobody wants to talk about something that's only good for them, but at the expense of future generation of other people, because that will look very bad on the YouTube cast. And so making sure that radical transparency is a precondition of lobbying. That also
今 IT 担当大臣ということで、IT の大臣をされてですね、そうしたものもうまく駆使しながら新しいサービスを社会に実装していったり、市民の声を行政に反映させたりっていうことがすごくうまくできてるんだなっていうことを思いましたが、丹さんがこれから考える、例えばIT などをうまく活用してどういう社会をこれから作っていきたいとか、どういうふうに社会のステージをまさにアセンションなんですが上げていきたいっていうイメージがあれば教えてください。
Yeah, I think one part of it is what I call assistive collective intelligence, or ACI. People in some startup talk about AGI, right? Artificial General Intelligence, meaning that, I don't know, Terminator or Skynet, like a robot will achieve the singularity. That's one kind of ascension, not my kind of ascension. What I want instead of singularity is the plurality. That is to say, people of all the different cultures can talk and listen to one another more by making sure that the AI are here to assist the collective intelligence. So the competition between human and a machine is gone, because this is about assisting the collective intelligence. The urbanism is always inclusive because the urban policy can reach more people who are too young to vote, right? The 16-year-old young lady didn't have a vote, but she still started a movement. And also the prosperity must be shared across the globe, not just our corner of Earth, but the entire Earth, because the coronavirus have shown that we are really in the same spaceship together. If any place in the spaceship leaks, the entire spaceship falters. And that is also important to keep in mind.
集合値というものを集めてより、社会、国、そしてまた世界をアップデートしていく、次元を上げていくという発想は本当に素晴らしいと思いますし、今日も台湾のいろんな成功事例とかうまくいっている事例は大変勉強になりました。そしてまた福岡と台湾というところも今スタートアップでいろんな連携をしているんですね。それで、特に台北市とはスタートアップの MOU も結んでいて、いろんなねやり取りをこれまでもして、台湾のスタートアップの皆さんも随分福岡でビジネスをしています。ゴルフェイスとかもそうだしね、いろんな人がね来て、やってますし、それから例えば、こちらですね、経済研究院とも MOU を結んでいます。そういうことでいろんなイノベーションというものが一緒になってね起こせていったり、新しいビジネスが生まれるっていうことは大変期待をしているんですが、日本ともしくは福岡との関係の中でタンさんが考えているこういうことができるんじゃないかとかいうことがあれば教えてもらっていいですか。
Definitely. As I shared when I was talking to the mayor of the Okinawa, I learned about the early earthquake warning system, flood warning system by running into a typhoon when I was visiting Okinawa. And that was many years ago. But it's such a important reminder that both people in Japan and Taiwan, we are uniquely well prepared to get the idea of resilience in our society. Unlike other more continental countries, we don't have this fantasy that we can use technology to conquer the nature. We understand we cannot conquer earthquake or typhoons, but we don't let them conquer us either. We can build resilient structures, not just in our buildings, but also in our mind as well, making sure that when an emerging issue happens, people who are good at thinking out of the box, the entrepreneurs, can come up with novel ways of, for example, making sure that all the medical officers in Taiwan, regardless of their gender, wore pink medical mask gesture so that young boys are more willing to wear pink medical mask to school. And that is a wonderful social innovation that easily spreads. And so I think such good ideas can be exchanged through this kind of conversation that we are now having, and making sure that the good idea spreads first, and then we can visit each other more. And I look forward to, of course, enjoy the very delicious food that I saw on your PowerPoint. And you're, of course, also welcome to visit Taiwan and have some good food here as well.
ディンタイフォン。ディンタイフォン美味しいですよね。もう行ったら必ず食べています。福岡にもね美味しいものもたくさんあるんで、ぜひまたタンさんも落ち着いたら福岡にも遊びに、来てください。
Definitely.
今日ははいありがとう。今日はどうもありがとうございました。
Thank you. Live long and prosper.
ありがとうございました。これからの社会がどう変化し上昇していくのか、非常に楽しみになる熱いセッションをいただきました。オードリー・タン大臣、そして高島市長、本当にありがとうございました。